Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 60. I can't believe it. Moving along, and it's a good one. It's an important one, I think. My guest today is Anna Holloway. She's going to be talking to us about her personal journey with lung cancer, how she got started doing some advocacy for the American Lung Association, and then she's also going to talk to us about a fun event they have coming up, the American Lung Association's 2022 Lung Force Run Walk, being held Saturday, October 15th on Folly Beach. It should be a fun event, and like I said, I think hearing her story is important as well, because as you'll hear us discuss, when you hear about certain diseases, you sometimes have like a preconceived notion about some of them and the type of people it affects. Like, in particular lung cancer, we discuss, you probably were a long-term smoker, or, did this or didn't live healthy in this way, or wasn't in shape. And she kind of turns a lot of that on its head. And no, that's not always the case. Diseases don't tend to care who you are and how healthy you are and what you do or don't do. So I think that part's important. And then again, we get into all that fun stuff about the events that the American Lung Association's South Carolina chapter does, and the work they're doing, and why it's important, and how you all can have fun while helping. So this is a great interview. I really enjoyed talking to Anna, and I'm sure you all will enjoy it as well. If you're interested in more information about the American Lung Association's South Carolina chapter and their event, we'll have links in the show notes and everything, so be sure to check those out after the fact. So without any further delay, here's my interview with Anna Holloway. And joining me now is my guest, Anna Holloway. She'll be talking to us about her personal journey with lung cancer, as well as her advocacy with the American Lung Association. And just as importantly is an upcoming event that you all may be interested in, the 2022 Lung Force Run Walk. I'm excited to hear all about all the things I just mentioned. And Anna, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I appreciate you turning a focus to this wonderful cause.
Of course, happy to. I've worked with some folks that I'm sure with the American Lung Association on other events in the past, and have shared them on the site. But this is the first time I've been able to speak with someone, directly. So I'm excited to learn more and hear about you. But before we get into all the nitty gritty details of the event and everything else, if you could just kind of provide a little bit of a background about yourself. Where you're from, if you're a Charleston native, or what brought you here, just anything about you as a person, so everyone listening just gets a better idea of who you are.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from North Carolina. I grew up right outside of Charlotte, and my husband's job brought us here to Charleston about 10 years ago. And I used to be a classroom teacher for a long time. I taught for 13 years, and then left the classroom when I had my youngest daughter. And now I actually am an adjunct professor at the College of Charleston. So that sort of helps me stay in education a little bit, but it still allowed me to be home with my girls. And so I'm 42 years old now, and my lung cancer journey sort of started when I turned 40. So it's a heck of a way to turn 40.
I can't imagine getting that diagnosis at any point, but yeah, especially at that point in time. I'm going to turn 40 here in a few months, and I'm already like, oh geez, there's something about that number. You feel, you're getting older, and then to get a medical diagnosis, it must have just compounded that. So let's get into that. I'm sure it's not a good story, and I appreciate you sharing it. But what was that diagnosis like? Were you having issues that brought you in to the doctor's office, or was this like a complete surprise? You had no symptoms or anything like that? Like, what was that whole journey like?
Well, in the spring of 2020, I started having a stomach pain. And so, and it just was nagging. It was there all the time. No matter what I did, it sort of was always there. And so, turning 40, I was like, well, I should listen to my body, what everybody says. And, I had 2 young girls. And so I thought, well, let's just check it out. And so I went to my family care doctor, Dr. Pagan, and she was wonderful. And she said, well, I think you're right to listen to this. Let's sort of explore it a little bit more. And So she gave me two choices to, go the GI route, sort of to explore that. And then she also said, well, it could be like a physical thing of lifting my kids up and, dealing with the puppy and, all that kind of stuff. And so I chose to do the GI route because I had some other stuff going on. And so she referred me to Dr. Gordine, and he was wonderful. His wife was a teacher. And so when I went in, we, laughed about teaching stories, and he listened to my concerns and he said, well, let's check it out and let's see. So he ran every test under the sun, like, an endoscopy, a colonoscopy, basically anything he could do, and found nothing. But I kept having the pain, and he had given me some medicine to try, and it didn't take the pain away. So I called back again and said, hey, I'm still having this, is there anything else we can do? And he said, well, one of the last things we can do is do a CT with contrast of your abdomen. And I said, well, let's do it, because it's, I don't know what's going on. And so they called and they said, well, everything looked great. Your GI looks wonderful, but has anybody told you that you have a spot on your right lung? And I was like, no, nobody's told me that. And it just so happened that the scan caught the bottom lobe of my lungs.
Wow.
So it wasn't even like a whole portion of the lung that was shown. It was just the bottom part. And that's where the spot was. And so he referred me to Dr. Scuring, who's a wonderful pulmonologist and was young like me. He was in his 40s too and had, young kids. And he said, we need to check this out. And so we, after watching it, he decided to biopsy it. And then he's the one that had to call me and give me the news that I had cancer. And it turned out that it was the day before my daughter's 8th birthday. So we were like planning a puppy party and had all the decorations everywhere. And then I'm sitting there, dealing with that. But he was wonderful too, because he said, I'm walking, right across the hall to the surgeon, and they're going to call you. And Dr. Mason, his nurse, called, and they were so fantastic, because the nurse said, if you can get here by 4:00, he'll see you today. And it was like a Friday.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, gosh, we'll go now. I made arrangements for my kids to be picked up, and we raced downtown, and he sat with us for 2 hours and went through, what the diagnosis was and what the options were. And I was so grateful that I didn't have to sit over the long weekend with it, knowing that it was just sitting there, but not having a plan. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, first, thank you so much for sharing that. It seems like you've gotten some distance from it now, so it's not hard necessarily to share it, but I can't imagine back then what it must have been like. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I thought of a couple questions while you were talking. First, is stomach pain, did you find out later, is that like a common thing for someone who may have lung cancer?
Nobody had ever said that to me. Like, nobody said that was a symptom, but it's weird because after my lobectomy and my 4 rounds of chemo, I have not had that stomach pain since.
Wow.
So
it's definitely
a strange
related.
Thing. Yeah. It was very weird. But most people that I've talked to in the work now, where I hear lots of other stories, it's just so rare to find it at stage 1. And it's always like a random thing, like a broken arm or something crazy that you would never guess, but it turns out that that's when it's found. So
you answered my second question, was what was the diagnosis, the stage and everything. So stage 1, which is if you're going to have cancer, that's the best news you can get.
Definitely.
More likely to be treated. How long did you have to go through, chemo and all those sorts of treatments, or are you still doing treatments?
Well, the recommendation was to have a lobectomy. So I had the bottom lobe of my right lung taken out.
Okay.
And so that was definitely not an enjoyable experience. I thought, I'm pretty healthy, I'll do great. And it was a little bit of more of a recovery than what I thought it was going to be. And then the type of cancer that I had was a ROS1 mutation. And so the recommendation was to do 4 rounds of chemo to prevent it from coming back. So I completed that in July of last year. And so now I am on like a 3-month progress monitoring. Every 3 months I go in and I have my scan, and they just, as a former teacher, I love progress monitoring. I like want a little report card every 3 months.
Right.
I like to get a sticker and do that kind of thing. So I'm grateful that, I'm sort of on this plan. I just actually hit a year of clean scans,
Oh,
every
that's
3 months.
amazing.
So
Congratulations. That's such good
yeah,
news.
yeah.
And
So
like you said, I'm sure you feel very lucky that it was caught at the time that it was. And, not that those treatments are any fun, unfortunately, I'm sure everyone listening has family, friends who've had to go through
definitely.
chemo and surgeries like this, and they're not fun. But, as far as big picture, that terrible window, it's worth it to be where you're at now, I'm sure.
Definitely. And hearing other survivor stories where they, were like mowing their grass and then something, crazy happened and they realized they were at stage 4, it's sort of
Right.
explained to me that way now, where you just don't find it until it's late. And then, if it's found early, there is success for it not coming back with all the different treatments we have. The survival rate has increased to 22%, if you find it and you're able to treat it. So that's important, that to me, that I found it with 2 little girls. I want to be
Yeah.
around for them and be able to do all the fun things with them.
Has there been, I'm obviously when you were, going through active treatments and post surgery, I'm sure there were some difficult times. Now that, like you said, you've been a year of clean scans, it's, a pretty good distance in the past. Do you have anything that's carried over from that time? If cutting out a section of your lung, have you noticed any differences with breathing, or are there any complications or long-term effects that you've seen from this?
No, they said unless I was like an Olympic athlete or something, training to race and that kind of thing, that I wouldn't really be able to tell any difference. And
Gotcha.
before that, I was fairly healthy. And so now, it's just gaining my strength back and making myself do, like, even just walking every day for 20 minutes is really healthy. So I've just tried to do that. So, slowly get myself back into doing things. But I don't particularly notice it with the certain things that I do, like riding a bike or walking or
Right.
anything, but I'm definitely not an elite athlete. So
Well, even if you were, it sounds like maybe you might have lost a step, but I'm sure, like you said, as long as you keep at it, whatever your lifestyle was before, you can get your strength back up. So that's good to hear as well. So obviously, you get the diagnosis, you're going through treatments, and then at what point did you start kind of being an advocate or getting involved with the American Lung Association?
Well, when I was going through treatment, I had a nurse transition coordinator at Roper, and her name is Renee. And she found me on my very first appointment there. And I thought, oh, I probably won't need a nurse transition coordinator. I'm not going to be here that long. But she sort of took me under her wing and was so great, because she sent me resources for my kids. And then later on, once I was done with treatment, she was going to do the Lung Force Walk last year, and she invited me to join her team. And so I thought, well, I was done with treatment. I was sort of trying to celebrate a little about being done, but I was still pretty emotional about all of it. And so she invited me to participate, and I just had so much fun. And since then, she's sort of given me different things and invited me to participate in different things. And so I had the opportunity in the spring to be a Lung Force hero and advocate with our delegates in Washington for more funding for cancer research and lung research, and particularly. So she sort of helped me get my legs, my advocacy legs about me. So now this race is like a tradition now. Like this year, some of my family's going to come down and join me, and some more friends. So I think it's going to become something that we do every year in my family now, to do the walk
really
together.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's cool too that, you went through something, and you could easily just be like, all right, well, that's that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, you went through it, no need to really talk about it or go through it. But you have decided to talk about it, to be an advocate, and to work with this organization to make sure anybody else who is in your circumstance will have a good, will hopefully have as good of a story as you've had, so that's really great that you've stayed involved. And I know American Lung Association is this big national network, but they have a South Carolina chapter here, and they do some really good work. And obviously, we're specifically talking about an event that's coming up, but they have another fun event that I'm sure people have heard of, the Lip Sync for Lungs event that they do every year. I think usually towards the beginning of the year. That's a ton of fun and seems to raise a lot of money. I don't know if you've had a chance to be involved in that, but I've been to a couple, and they do really a lot of fun events, and I'm sure this next one's going to be fun too.
Yeah, this year it's going to be great because they have some activities for kids, so you can bring your kids out. and do lots of things with us, and then walk or run if you'd like. But yeah, I haven't gotten to do the lip sync event. I got to participate in the Oxygen Ball last year.
Yes, that's
which
the other
was
one.
so wonderful, like to see all the dancers and raise money for for a great cause. So it's I hope I can do the lip sync next. That's going to be on my list of things.
It's a lot of fun. I've like I said, I've gone. I haven't participated, but I've gone and watched, and it's a lot of fun. I have a friend who's pretty involved in that event, and that's kind of how I got to know a little bit more about the American Lung Association and some of the folks here. But they put on, and like you mentioned, the Oxygen Ball is another big event. So they put on some really fun events. Charities and nonprofits are always doing events, and they're all usually fun, but really they seem to take it to another level. So speaking specifically about the Lung Force Run Walk, it is going to be held on October 15th, starts at 9 a.m., check-in is at 8 a.m., and it's going to be out on Folly Beach, correct?
Yes, it is. It's beautiful. It's down there at the Dunes House where the county park is, and it's just a lovely setting to do the walk. I know we found sand dollars last year. My kids loved playing on the beach afterwards, so we would love for everybody to come out and join us to run and walk for this great cause.
How long is the run walk? Is it a 5K?
It's a 5K,
Okay.
and registration is $30 for adults and $20 for children. And so they can go and register at lungforce.org/Charleston if they want to register for the race and come out.
Nice. And then, as you said, whether you participate in the race or not, there's other activities and things going on. You mentioned kids' activities, and I'm sure there'll be ways to get more information about the organization and how you can get involved if you'd like to as well.
Definitely. Lots of fun things for kids. I know there's going to be some pumpkin painting and some face painting. We've got some great people donating their time to come out and join us for the event to do those services for the kids. So it'll be great.
It sounds like it for sure. And you mentioned individuals, who want to participate. The people, I know it might be a little bit last minute at this point for some folks, but keep it in mind for the future because this is a yearly event. You can also create teams, maybe with coworkers or friends, and raise money together and things like that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it tends to normally, Lung Cancer Awareness Month is November, but we always have the race sort of at the middle to end of October to sort of kick off the month. So definitely mark your calendar to join us next year if you can't come this year. But there's still time. There's still time to register and come and join us.
Oh, absolutely. And for those listening, especially, we're still in this pandemic, even though you may not know it as you're walking around. But there is a virtual option because obviously people may still be worried about that, especially people who may have lung cancer or other cancers or whatever else who may want to. There is a virtual option as well, so you can still donate and help if you're just not comfortable going to an event in person at this time. That is available on the website that you mentioned as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we will take any and all people's help.
That's
all
right.
The time.
And if you're lazy and don't want to do either, you can still donate anytime.
You can. You can.
You can donate to individuals or teams on the website, and we'll put that website link in the show notes for those who are interested in registering or donating or learning more about the other events going on throughout the year. Is there anything else in regards to the event or your own personal journey with lung cancer, your advocacy with the organization, anything that I didn't ask you about that you want to highlight or go over or make sure people know?
No, I'm just grateful for all of the doctors and nurses that listened to me. And I think that's important for all people to know, to listen to your body. And if something doesn't feel right, check it out because you just never know. Lung cancer doesn't run in my family. And so it was something that I just didn't know a lot of people would get. And so it was a total surprise. So I think, gaining more knowledge about it and listening to your body and advocating for yourself is the most important. So.
No, that's a great point. And, this may be a personal thing. You don't have to get into it, but you didn't mention, I'm guessing you would have mentioned it, but you weren't a smoker or anything like that. So this, people I think a lot of times associate this with like someone who's chronically smoking. Oh, no, I don't have to worry about lung cancer. I don't smoke.
Yeah, no, I did not smoke and nobody in my family smoked either. And actually I had a friend who we just had prior to that, we had completed a She-Tri that's here in Charleston. It's like a sprint triathlon. And so I did it with her because she has cystic fibrosis. So we had just done that. And I was like, man alive, I'm probably in the best health of my life right now. And then that happened. So I think it can affect anybody, not just if you're a smoker. So it's important that we all listen to our bodies for sure.
That's a great point too. You've mentioned a couple times that you were in good shape and you felt well, besides obviously when that pain started in the stomach. That's another great point. It doesn't matter how healthy you are. It doesn't matter if you smoke or not. Anybody could, end up having the same diagnosis as you. So I think that's a good takeaway, from what we were discussing. In addition to the event coming up, when you all are hearing this, it'll be Saturday, the 15th, out on Folly Beach. Just go to the county park. They have that nice new Dunes house there, and you can see everybody. But before you do that, of course, register online. I really appreciate you sharing the story today. It's always good to talk about an event that's fun and you sort of get, oh yeah, lung association. Sure. That's great. So much fun. But to hear someone's personal story who's been affected by what this organization is trying to raise money to help, I think just kind of hammers it home a little bit more for people. So hopefully anyone listening will hear your story and be moved to participate or like you said, advocate for themselves if they're going through something health-wise, and speak up and, make sure doctors are still looking into things. So I really appreciate everything you said. It was great speaking with you, Anna, and I hope the event on Saturday goes well and you continue with these clean scans from here on out.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking time to highlight the Lung Association in our story. So I greatly appreciate it and hope to see everybody out at the walk.
And that'll do it for episode 60. Thank you so much for listening. And a big thank you to Anna Holloway for taking the time and sharing her personal journey with lung cancer and giving us details on what should be an awesome event here in Charleston. Be sure to click on all those links, even if you can't participate. It's a good organization to help. And as we talked about in the interview, they have so many fun events. That lip sync for lungs is a blast. I've been to it twice. The oxygen ball sounds like it's a lot of fun. And this run walk, even if you're not, someone who likes to do 5Ks and stuff, they'll have some, what the heck, go hang out on Folly Beach on what should be a beautiful morning and, see everybody else putting in that hard work. You can still donate and hang out and learn and have fun. So thanks to all you for listening. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/holycitycenter or holycitycenter.com/shop. You can also always support liking, retweeting social media posts, sharing them with friends, letting people know about this podcast. All those things help as well as rating and reviewing the show on any platforms that allow you to do that. And I appreciate those of you who have done all those things I just mentioned already. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins for producing this episode with LMC Sound System, and the amazing Tyler Boone, who, by the way, is a great musician. That's the music you hear in every episode. He is also taking public investors, through a website called Start Engine for his Boone's Bourbon. You can invest in the company in exchange for equity. So I want to do a little plug for him. He didn't ask me to, but he's always been a friend of the show. So I'm happy to support him, and you guys should as well. Because that Boone's Bourbon, if you remember from our interview, is like award winning. It is killing it. So there's a chance this could work out well for you. So go to startengine.com. You can look for Boone's Bourbon and help him out. He's a good dude. I think that's it for the thank yous. I think I covered everybody. I hope you all fared well over this week, and I can't wait to talk to you all soon. Until the next episode, good night and good luck.